Welcome to episode 51 of Talk Your Exposure. And today we are joined by the godfather of basketball in Canada, Ro Russell, starting his basketball program of Toronto Elite in 1989, eventually ending up being Grassroots basketball. Tune into this episode as we delve into his basketball career as a coach and how he was able to start and revolutionize basketball in Canada. Welcome to another edition of Talk Your Exposure, and we're back. It's been a while since we've done this. It's been about 6 or 7 months, but Chris, we are back in the building again and with a great guest for today. But before we introduce our guest, I want to remind everybody that RWI Basketball is doing a fundraiser December 2nd for a comedy show. If you guys have not bought your tickets already, go do so and go show some support. As everybody knows, this show in particular has always been for the kids and for the youth. That is why this was started during the pandemic. And there's nothing different from that comedy show that they're trying to do as well. It is for the AAU program, and everybody knows that does AAU knows that you have a lot of expenses that go into the program. So with that being said, go buy your tickets today and ask RWI Basketball for more information. But Chris, to you for a second. I see in the back, you got a little something in the back. I am celebrating Black History Month. I know your term is coming up in a few months from now, but we'll get down to that when it's time to promote it. But in the meantime, how are you doing today, big guy?
You know what? It's an interesting day. The weather's changed up on us. We got to adjust the jackets, adjust the hats. I guess I got to leave the baseball hat, start going to the winter hat now. I'm gonna probably start out pulling a little earmuffs and a bucket hat for you very soon. So don't worry. When I come to your fundraiser, I'll be well dressed with my bucket hat for you. Don't worry, I might even get customized just for you. Put some RWI or something on it, just for you, because I like you so much, Steven.
But I told you that I would save something for the air, and I would save them on my one compliment for you. My one compliment for the day, Chris. I won't lie. You look like you've been losing some weight. You look good, man. You look good. You're slimmed down a little bit.
Well, I saw you. Listen, if you ever seen Steven was a gym rat for a bit, and you're looking real bees there. Your chest was looking wide. I was like, I can't have you on the air looking as good. I'm surprised you only have a head shot right now. You should be having like the half body shot right now. And then people are like, okay, look at this guy.
Hey, today's about you, Chris. I'll give you today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the compliment.
There we go.
I think anytime I can get it.
There we go. But our guest of today is a basketball legend. Somebody who's been in the game for quite some time. He's evolutionized basketball within the prep organization as well, not just with AAU, but also prep too. Like I mentioned a second ago, he has probably one of the most, if not the most, Canadian to get a Division I scholarship or even currently play in the NBA. This guy's been around quite some time. He's coached a lot of guys. We would like to welcome Coach Ro Russell to the building. Coach Ro Russell to the show. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Anytime. I want to ask you a quick question. Want to get right down to it. Getting out of the pandemic, how has life been for you these days?
Life's been a lot better, when you're traveling, you got to worry about vaccination and rapid tests and all these different rules and regulation and everything. So just traveling back and forth has been a headache over the pandemic, but now it's kind of, lessened and smooth now. So that part is good. And gyms being closed and all the restrictions for practicing and playing. So it's good to see, ball being played now all over the country. It's always been playing in America. I don't think they had pandemic in America.
but they're like, there's something wrong in the world?
Say it again?
They're like, is something wrong in the world? I don't know what you guys talking about.
I know, but it's good to, be back at it. We're kind of, have one eye open in case something else pops up again. But, it's good not to be wearing a mask all the time and the whole nine. So, life is good, thank the Lord.
And hopefully the teachers don't want to go on another strike. We've been hearing a little bit of rumors that as of Monday, they're going to be going on a strike again. So hopefully we can avoid that. So then gyms can completely stay open and not just private gyms as well. You just mentioned a second ago, thank the Lord. And obviously not only you're a godfather of basketball, but you're also a reverend. They call you Reverend Russell or Rev Russell. I'm not really too sure the name, but I know they call you Rev. What made you want to get into, be a little bit more biblical and a little bit more religious?
Oh yeah, thank you. Definitely, I give all glory to God. Just finding my own path and find my faith with the Lord and believing in God and Jesus Christ, and just trying to live my life the right way and do good by everybody and just try to instill those good values in our organization and everybody I meet. You cuss, you gotta do 50 burpees, you get, just a whole nine. So that's how I live, that's what I'm about, and that's what my faith is, and I try to use basketball as a ministry, to help kids to get better, grow from boys to men, and just do the right thing.
Well, definitely. Do you have a favorite Bible verse?
Yeah, I should know the actual verse, but it's the where it's from. But I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. So that's what I live by in terms of anything out there that I want to accomplish. Then I trust in the Lord and believe and pray about it and just have faith, and I can accomplish anything because I think I've done a few things over the decades. So the Lord has been with me.
There you go. There you go. Off from religion for a second, but I want to get into basketball. How do you think basketball has evolved / adapted in Canada during the pandemic?
I think that it's come to a point now where it's viable and relevant in Canada. Before, even myself, I back in the 90s, I was setting kids to different prep schools to the States, and it was really hard to get that opportunity from Canada. The level of basketball, the training, the opportunities, it was hard. But now with the advent of prep schools up in Canada, now not all kids have to go. As you saw over the years, Jamal Murray, Lou Dort, Stan Maker, and now even Elijah Fisher or even Leonard Miller, they were able to do their thing in Canada and still get to a high level and get opportunities. So that's the biggest thing that I've seen over the years.
I'm glad you brought up prep basketball because throughout this course of the year, obviously there've been a lot of kids that have been scared and nervous to lose high school eligibility because a lot of high schools weren't really getting back to playing high school basketball again. There's been a lot of quote unquote prep schools throughout this year that have been either good or bad. You have the typical OSBA's teams, which have been pretty beneficial, and those are the quote unquote prep schools. But then you have the watered down prep schools where people can just do whatever they want to do. What are your thoughts on prep basketball right now in Canada, because based on the non-scholastic and scholastic aspect of it?
Yes, I think that based on what's going on in prep basketball and trying to get to that level of being scholastic, I think that all prep schools, the ones that are starting up, the ones that are new, the ones that are up and coming, the ones that are not quite there yet, their goal, their mandate, their vision should be to be scholastic. They should, go under that model, that blueprint of like trying to be as legit as possible. All kids go to the same school. You have that relationship with the school officials. You register with all the entities, the NCAA, and have a governing body, and just fall online. So if anything happens with college coaches coming up with the NCAA, whatever, you're good. You're registered. Your ducks are in a row, and there's no issues there. You shouldn't just be independent and say I can do whatever I want and I'll just play. I'll just pay my fee and play. That's a start, but your goal should be trying to be as legitimate as possible. So then you can be able to get into the OSBA and have some credibility and some legitimacy. So that should be the goal, because now there's so much talk about being scholastic, where different American associations won't play Canadian prep schools because they're not scholastic under the American or the NCAA terms, so you got to register, you have to fall in line, you got to be accredited, you got to check all the boxes to be as credible and legitimate as possible.
We're going to get back to the OSBA in a little bit, but I want to ask you one final question before I hand the mic to Chris. How far are we away from being, I guess you say, being to where the states are in terms of prep schools?
I think we're getting there. We're not quite there yet overall. Obviously, there's 400 million people in America. There's 40 million people in Canada. So the talent pool is a lot bigger in America. But right. I think that there's enough credible and strong prep schools in Canada that they can compete with the American counterparts. And I think that even though the numbers are lower, there's some strong prep schools that can beat some of the better prep schools. And, this just got to continue to recruit and develop and build and get to a part where it doesn't matter who graduates. If you graduate some, like one year, I think that Orangeville graduated like 10 guys and they all went D1. Then the next year they got to be able to, get back 10 guys and do it all over again. So every year you have to reload rather than, rebuild, you know what I'm saying? And, you got to be able to have college coaches, like your players when you go to the States and they follow you back to Canada and continue to recruit your guys. Because now it's even harder now with the advent of the one-time transfer rule and the transfer portal. It's a lot harder for kids to go D1. And so now there's legitimate opportunities at Division II, at the youth sports level, and so forth, because it's got so smaller in terms of having an opportunity to go D1.
For sure.
That's I like that. I like how you phrase that. That's real. Hope people hope when people read when they listen to this, they pick that up because it's the truth. That's a real good points you point there. Rev, I guess what's gonna happen, I'm gonna go into the game stuff because I love games. So I like starting my part. Let's have some fun with this. So this game, would you rather? All right. So you know what? I got the Black History thing, so we'll start out smooth. If you had the opportunity to start a business, would you rather start a business with Martin Luther King or Malcolm X? And why?
Me personally, I would go with MLK. You know what I mean? The vision is there, the faith is there, and the sacrifice is there. Like he would go to the ends of the earth, fight whoever he has to fight, knowing the consequences might not be good. So that's more indicative of me. I'm not over the top as much, still maintaining the vision and the beliefs and the fight like how Malcolm X is, who I respect and so forth. But I'm more leaning over to MLK.
All right, I respect that. I like that too. Yeah, and your work actually does show that you've been steady and always sticking to the vision the whole time. So I give you that. Also, here now, let's flip it. So if you got a chance to coach or manage an NBA team, which team would it be? Actually, first, would you rather coach or manage an NBA team? That's first thing. And second, which team would it be? And we'll use this season.
If I had a chance to manage or coach, I would manage because I feel that obviously over the decades that I've been doing this thing, I've amassed that knowledge and that expertise and that eye and that foregone vision that I can see what's going to happen, and I've really good eye for talent. So I'd manage and help with the recruiting and just the overall structure of the organization or the team and so forth. So I would like to, be able to be part of, identifying the really good coaches and really good strength conditioning guys and the scouts and the media people and the whole nine. So I would rather manage than I would coach at this point. Yeah.
Rev in the room. I see Rev's is making sure the room's taken care of. I like that.
Yeah, exactly. And the team that I would most like to manage is probably, I would say Miami Heat. Miami Heat. Yeah, Miami Heat, obviously, first thing, because you're living in the nice weather, right? Year round. That's the first thing. And you're rubbing shoulders with Pat Riley, who's been there from day one, through all the decades of, great teams in New York and LA and the whole nine. And then thirdly, I like their style of toughness. Like they compete, they get after it, they're tough, and so they look for guys that defend and that are tough and are athletic and they play as hard as they can. So win or lose, they're always going to be in the game. Like I went to the game last night, Raptors versus Miami Heat, and the Raptors won by I think 6 or 7, but Miami Heat, they don't care who they play. They just go hard at you. They came within 2 points at the end of the game and they lost by a couple, but I just like their style. I just like the way that they put their hard hat on, they put their boots on, they have their lunch pail and they get after it. So I like the culture of Miami Heat in terms of what they bring to the table no matter what. And they'll get who's that guy? Who's that guy?
Yeah,
But
it's true.
he plays the same way. He comes to play every day. You know what I mean? So I like that.
I like that. A debate between young people, and I love this. I love this question. Is if you had a chance to spend a day with these two players I'm about to mention, both of them are great in their own rights. You had to choose between Michael Jordan and LeBron James. Who would you prefer to spend the day with?
Well, my favorite player of all time is going to be obviously MJ. So I would love to be that fly in the room and see at practice and in the locker room and the whole nine, and just to see all the things that I've seen from afar, from the television and from the bleachers and the seats and the crowd. Sometimes I've seen them play, and I like to see the mentality and just the confidence and everything like that. So I choose Michael Jordan in terms of that, and see that and kind of evaluate the level of the competition and the toughness in that generation compared to what it is now. So I would go with MJ.
Okay, I like that. Another good question for you. You had a chance. Okay, I like this one. You can if you had the option of spending the entire, I'm gonna go Heat because you said you love the good weather. If you have the option of being in an island for a whole year, all expenses paid for, so you don't have to worry for a year on an island, or get 5 choices, 5 wishes, anything to change the world, what would you prefer to do?
I'd obviously being the kind of guy I am and how I've grown up, and my mom has been a really strong figure in my life in terms of helping others and trying to change the world and do your part in changing the world. I definitely choose that, in terms of seeing peace and seeing less poverty and just seeing the world, more prosperous and more together. You don't like seeing all the wars and all the catastrophes and all the different hatred amongst some groups and the whole nine. So I would more lean into work than I would be relaxing. I'm the kind of guy that I go to bed at 1 o'clock at night. I wake up at 6 and I'm working it. I'm always working, trying to find a solution, trying to make an impact in the world. So that's the kind of guy I've always been. So I would choose that. Try to save the world. With
Mr.
God's
Very, very MLK like right there.
yeah.
Well, so in the early 2000s, late 90s, you were one of the first people to start an AAU program, right? Um, what was the first name of the AAU program?
It was at that point. It was 89, and it was called Toronto Elite. Because at that point I was just focusing on Toronto. I didn't have that full saturation where I felt I did a really good job to improve and enhance the level of basketball all the way through in Toronto. It was after probably like 92 that I
Mhm.
decided to go to, Montreal and Vancouver and Halifax and impact those areas as well. So, yeah, it was called Toronto Elite.
Okay. So what intrigued you to create that platform for youth basketball? Like you kind of mentioned throughout the conversation, you kind of put in, you can piece it together as well. But what was it like? Let's go into let people know really what intrigued you to do that for basketball.
Well, again, going back to how my mom raised me, like I grew up in Jane and Finch, and I was living in Finch, but I wasn't off Finch, in terms of any kind of negativity. I was the guy that would try to, you know, negotiate with different gangs. I was the one that was trying to put a game together or a league together or run together, whatever. I was the one that would, counsel kids and try to help them to go back to school and to graduate and look at their options for post-secondary. I was the one that was, making the phone calls and helping kids to get a job and those kind of
Mm.
things to train them, whatever. So I originally started by saying, hey, if I can do it, if I can, be in this environment and still make it a positive situation, because there's things in Finch that I love in terms of being a survivor and being hard nosed and going through all the the trials and tribulations and overcoming and all those things. So there's a lot of really good things that's made me the man that I am. But it was mostly to use basketball as a tool, to motivate kids, to do right, to, become, positive people in the society and to also pay it forward. So, that's what got me started to work with Jane and Finch, with Rexdale, with Jungle, with Regent, with Malvern, with Galloway, with all the different areas in Toronto, because those kids been through a lot. Their families been through a lot. So I knew that they would, be tough and physical and hard nosed, and that's what you need to fight this and go through this journey of basketball. So, and you want to be able to change that area in terms of make it more positive and more productive and those kind of things.
I'm glad you named those areas because obviously I'm a Rexville guy, so I'm always gonna
Yeah,
think of Rex.
yeah,
but but in those areas, you're able to coach a few of these D1 and future NBA stars. Like you got Nick, you got Tristan Thompson, you got Corey, Andrew, Jacoby, really like Jacoby, and obviously Elijah Fisher. You know, they're all from different areas across the GTA, and you've been able to touch even more than just those guys, just highlighting a few names. Was it like coaching these guys?
I think overall coaching these guys, it was always a challenge because you wanted to get them as good as they can possibly be, make them be the best version of themselves, both um, basketball wise, academically, and character. And it was a challenge to say, okay, let's flex our hands and let's go to work now. Let's get this kid to where he needs to go. Let him realize his dream and his goals. And because I had the connections, I had the wherewithal, I had the experience with it, and so I knew exactly what to do at that point. So and those guys, their work ethic was way above average. Like they wanted to be in the gym all the time. When everybody else is sleeping, they want to go 2 or 3 days, 3 times a day, and their mentality to play. Like they wanted to be the best. Like all those guys wanted to be number one in their class. And at one point or another, they were, you know. And so it was good working with those guys because they had high goals and they took it serious. So
Now, I like that you said like kind of segue into what I want to go next. So right there, you highlighted their characteristics. So what's the difference between coaching someone like that, and no disrespect to the kids, but then dealing with another kid who needs more like attention, more, they need more of your attention, more of your time to pull it out of them, or to even get to find the drive to be that good. What's the difference in that?
I think the first difference is the parents, right? Because when the parents are old school, then they instill and they, treat the kid with those old school values. And then I am also old school, so I'm also in terms of basketball and development and everything and opportunities and exposure. I'm also, going through it with a old school type of values as well. And so you need those parents on your side so you're on the same page. And then a big difference, like I said before, is the work ethic. Like sometimes you have to beg kids to come to the gym. Oh, I can't make it. I have to do something. I have to get a ride there. A lot of these kids would take the bus, take the GO train, figure it out and get to the gym to work out. They want it that much better. A lot of kids out there, it's like, hey, if it works out, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You know what I mean? But these kids were driven, and they're like, hey, but I got to get there. However, I got to get there. I got to do what I got to do. I got to go to prep school. I got to go here. I got to do this. I got to travel there. I got to work this much time. Whatever it was going to take, they were willing to do it. And that's not, the generation has changed. A lot of kids, they have a lot of options. I'll go from this team. I don't like the coach or what they're saying. I'll go to that team. This coach is too hard. Like many times kids have changed programs because they were saying that the coach is too hard on them. And they got to understand that that's when you're in the right position, when the coach is hard on you, because that's when he believes in you. That's when he cares about you. And that's when he thinks you can get there. So he's got to raise the standards and push you and give you that tough love.
Sorry, Chris. I just want to touch him real quick. Honestly, that is probably the most that I asked you earlier, in terms of the pandemic of if you realize any changes or what's been changing in basketball. The pandemic has made these kids softer because there has been 1,000,001 AU and rep programs now. Everybody and their mom and dad are making programs. And like you said, it's like, oh, I don't like Coach Chris Campbell. So you know what? I'm going to go to Grassroots. I'm going to go to RWI, or I'm going to go to whatever team I'm going to go to. And the way I look at it, I'm like, okay, that's fine. You can go there. That's fine. But like, what does it teach you as kids? You know what I'm saying? Like as kids, and even you even kind of touched on it as well. Parents allowing their kids to jump from team to team to team to team to team. What are you teaching? What kind of morals are you teaching your kids to be able to go and just jump from here to here to here? Like in the real world, you're not going to jump from one job to another job to another job to another job to another job. You're going to have to find a way to make things work. You have to find a way to fight over adversity. You have to find a way to just be comfortable in your setting and figure out a way, to accept, if somebody be hard on you for a good reason, accept that and take it as a challenge. But like, I don't know. I just find this that ever since the pandemic happened, everybody is it because not everybody, but most kids and their parents have become super soft. And that's what I kind of wanted to touch up on that with you real quick, is to ask you, like, do you agree with that statement, or do you kind of feel like it's happened before the pandemic?
I now that I think about it, I think that from maybe 2010, 2012, probably 2012 to now, I've seen a change in the kind of student athletes that are coming around. But now from 2020 till now, I've seen even a bigger change to the how kids have become so soft. They don't want to work. And unfortunately, mental health has affected a lot of kids. And that's also aided in them being softer too. I can actually see, kids putting their head down. Like, I don't want to mention the actual kid's name, but, I was working with a kid, and he was really talented, could shoot it, handle it. He had good moves and good maneuverability, and he was efficient. And you're saying to yourself, okay, let's work with this kid. And then one situation happened that showed that he had a lot of mental health issues to work through. And that just changed my whole outlook on the kid, to say, like, hey, we're going to the States. We're playing against the best players in Canada. I don't know if you're going to be in the trenches with me. Now you got me thinking. And
Mm.
now you have to try to find and outsource certain other outlets for them to go to, because they're meaningful kids and they're good kids and you want to help them. But now it's like what's happening with that transfer portal. You can't really babysit kids as much because you got to keep moving. The seasons are happening.
Yep.
Before we're in the summertime. Now it's almost end of November. In a couple months, it's going to be AU time. So you got to prepare for that and get kids ready for that, because it's a business. You know what I mean? You one bad year and you're out of the circuit. You know what I mean? Kids don't get scholarships and the whole nine. You lose players, the whole nine. So I've seen mental health really affect kids a lot. And that's also aided in the parents being the kids being entitled, and the parents not really being as old school as they should. I know that you want to make things better for your child, than it was for you, but you got to do it in a good way that's gonna do both, maintain their toughness and give them good opportunities.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well said, well said. Because I do see that a lot of good points are pointed out there. I'm just going through some of my notes here because I remember some of the kids that we had prior to the pandemic. We had problems earlier, but pandemic changed a lot. It shifted a lot of the mentalities, and the separation really happened a lot when you look at kids who kind of had access to gyms, and then it changed to private facilities. So the kids who had private facilities kind of kept it going, and their mojo and their confidence still there. While kids who never had that or never had access to that on a regular basis, it went down. And you see it in games. Kids now play games, and you can see who was playing and who had access and was getting shots up compared to who wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets kind of depressing to watch kids say, I'm not as good as I used to be. Or look, remember that guy? I used to get that guy. Now this guy got me. So it's a give and take. But hopefully we just got to figure new ways to get them through that. And that's a new challenge on the coach's role as well. Just trying to figure ways to get them mentally strong. So I'm glad you brought it up, both of you guys, and some real good stuff on that.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, that being said, I'm going to go into, grassroots. And, we've been seeing grassroots for such a long time. And we've seen so much different players come out wearing those jerseys. Can you mention a time, the most memorable grassroots team? Especially if it's coaching or even some practice where you're like, you're sitting there like looking around going, man, like this is what's in the gym. like one of those type moments.
Okay, sure. Definitely the moment that quickly comes to mind is 2009. So as you probably remember, 2008, I had Tristan Thompson, Corey Joseph, Mike Kabongo, Dwight Powell, Brady Heslop, and the whole rest of the crew. And, at that point, we were the only Canadian team that was ever ranked number one in America. We beat all the teams in America. We won 50 games. I think we're 50-1 that spring and summer. We went to so much tournaments. Everybody wanted us to be in their event. And we won the Super 64. Junior Cadogan was MVP of the tournament. And Tristan Thompson was player of the game. He was a sophomore at that time. And so we went into the next year as preseason number one for the Super 64. And we were on a roll. We're just dominating elite teams. When you go to tournaments and you beat up on a team that's not that strong, we were beating up guys that were high-level programs, powerhouses, guys with multiple D1, multiple pro, multiple All-American teams. So in the semifinals, we played against Double Pump Elite, and I didn't realize it yet at the time, but after doing research and just thinking about it, they had Klay Thompson, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and James Johnson, and we beat them by 30.
Wow.
And we were laughing, beat them by 30, sitting on the bench, legs crossed and laughing. And we even came late to the game because of the highway was shut off. So you had to go to the next exit 3 miles down, and there was nonstop traffic. So you're rushing to the gym not to get disqualified or forfeited. And you just run into the gym and just run on the court. and just go right to
Just as
the jump ball. No warm up or anything. And we were like a machine. You know what I'm saying? Like that year, we beat two teams like that were sponsored by NBA guys that they left the game before the game was over. Like 10 minutes left, we're up by 35, 38. And they said, we're not losing to Canadian teams. And the NBA guy just pulled their guys and they left, you know, and that's unheard of that a team would not finish the game, you know. So it was great that crew that I had in terms of the focus and the mentality and the never quit and just the domination mentality they had. And it's no surprise that a lot of those guys went to NCAA, went to NBA, went to the G League, played with Team Canada, did all those things. That team, you know, we should do a documentary on just that team. Like, I'd love to have a reunion and just talk on just that team, because that team was ridiculous. Like, Junior Cadogan, like, he changed the top scouts' mindset. They said, "Oh, you're too short, Junior. You're too slow. You're not as athletic. You're kind of chubby. You're not that good. I don't know if you're even a Division I player." And I said, he said, "Don't worry, I'm gonna prove it." So he was MVP of the tournament, and then that same top scout, he had to write in his report online that Junior Cadogan changed his mind. Before, he thought he was like a top 50 point guard or whatever, and now he thinks he's a top 10 point guard. You know, and it shows what he did at Marquette with the national team and the whole nine. So, you know, that was kind of the mentality of those guys, and it made my job easier. I was just chilling on the bench and having hands relax and say, "Hey, go in, Tristan." Because at that point, no one played as hard as Tristan Thompson. He played so hard. Right. Oh my goodness. He was easily the best offensive rebounder in the country. He was ranked number 1 his junior year. You know what I mean? So that team was a special team.
I like you that. You know, I'm glad you're sharing that. And you're right. You know, a documentary in that group will be it'll be nice to have them all come back. Like, you know, you're watching these little Netflix and these little specials they talk about. They bring back these, you know, these situations come up. That'll be a very interesting documentary to have these guys come back, like, talking about that from their eyes. Like, you know, we don't know. We jumping out the car, we rushing, we late, and like we didn't realize that Kawhi's on the next side. Who's that? Like, you know, like I can just imagine the chemistry and the laughs and the jokes. Like, we don't know. We should have ball.
yeah, exactly. That's what they're there to do, and they definitely did that and then some. You know what I'm saying?
I like that. Well, I'm a last question for you is, do you remember, obviously everyone always remembers the first, but do you remember, so everyone hears this, the first D1 coach that you talked to?
Yes. And it's funny because like 30 plus years later, that coach is my best friend, my best Division I coaching colleague that I have. His name is Nikita Johnson. And he was at Duquesne University, but before then he was at Murray State. And I got to know him at Murray State when Popeye Jones played for him. And then he came to Duquesne. And then they started to come up to Toronto all the time to recruit all our guys. And then, as you probably remember, Wayne Smith went there, right? Yep. And so I go there. Yeah, White Wayne, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And you know, so I've known him for like 34 years, and we still talk like 3 times a day. He's got every school he's been to. He's recruited multiple guys. He actually offered Elijah Fisher in the 8th grade. You know what I'm saying? Because he knew if I said, "Coach, this is the one," he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna come up and see him right away." And then he saw him in the 8th grade, and he's playing prep school in the 8th grade, starting. Yep. He's like, "Okay, I'm offering that kid." You know, obviously he didn't get him, but he knew talent. You know what I'm saying? So that guy, he's the kind of guy that if I was getting married again or doing something really special, he would be my best man. He would be, I'd say if I had a young kid, I say, okay, that's going to be your legal guardian. You know what I'm saying? So that's the kind of trust and camaraderie and chemistry that we have.
Big ups to basketball, building bridges and showing the love. I love that.
Yes, sir.
We don't talk about that.
Yes, sir.
No
Honestly,
doubt.
I'm glad that I'm able to have the mic now. I'm tired of hearing your voice, Chris.
It's okay. A lot of people like hearing me talk. He gets mad at that. Don't worry, bro. People love hearing me talk.
Hey,
Come on. They're
those
like,
are great questions. I like those questions because they're a little bit changed from like the regular, what was this and what did you think here, whatever. I like those fun, rememberable, questions that make you really think and really ponder and having those flashbacks about what it was. So I appreciate the questions.
Oh, I thought the questions were great. It's a salt and pepper beer that he has on going on that I don't really like.
yo, listen. In a couple of years, when you start having, you start embracing this. I'm gonna take this, send it back to you as a clip, so you can be like, "Oh, you know what? My bad, Chris. I should respect you. Stop the disrespect."
Let's move on with the show. Ro, I want to ask you though, in the late, you're obviously somebody that likes to make change. You're not really somebody that wants to follow people's footsteps. But one of the things you want to do is you want to bring Canadian hoopers to America, as you mentioned a little bit ago. You're beating up on a lot of teams. You're one of the first Canadian coaches, if not the first Canadian coach, to start their own prep program in United States. Left in the late 2000s, you left Canada to start your pro program at Christian Faith Center Academy in New Jersey, if I'm not mistaken.
It's actually North Carolina.
North Carolina. What intrigued you to leave Canada and take your talents to the U.S.?
Well, basically, so many players at that time wanted to go to prep school. They were kind of fed up and, with their regular high school situation. They're having tryouts in November, go to 1 or 2 or 3 tournaments, and they only play maybe 30, 40 games of the year. And there was no development, just plays and conditioning. And there was no legitimate development at practices. Once the season was over in March, then that was it. They're on their own. They're playing with their club teams or the AAU team. So there was nothing for them to, really take heed to. And so they wanted more. And that made them look down south. So I was sending kids back in the 90s to the different prep schools in the States. And some of them were great, but then some of them weren't. So then I decided as a challenge, seeing that I did what I did in AAU and risen to the top of the food chain, that I want to take this challenge. And because I knew all about it by sending all these kids to prep school, that I can, develop a prep school like they're doing now and be able to, do right by these kids in terms of, making sure they got the exposure and development and the opportunity, and they were able to, obtain their goals and dreams.
A prep schedule is no joke. It literally is supposed to get you prepared for university or college basketball. I was fortunate enough to play junior college while also playing Division II basketball as well. And one of the biggest things for me, one of my biggest struggles was adapting to the scholastic and also the academic portion of it as well. What people don't understand is that there's so much that goes into being a student athlete that they don't even really realize when they leave high school how hard it really is. I remember when I was in university, we had our Monday schedule in particular was 8 a.m. We had, 8 a.m. for me, I had class. Then afterwards at 10 a.m. I had conditioning. After that, we had another class at 1:30. We had study hall at 4 o'clock. Then we had lift at 6 o'clock. Then we had practice at 9 o'clock. Then back in the next morning, 6 a.m. practice on Tuesday morning. And that was just a Monday and Tuesday. That was just Monday and Tuesday. Obviously, there's 5 other more days in the week. But people don't understand this struggle and the grind. And you mentioned it earlier, the trench work that comes into being a student athlete. What was your everyday schedule like at this prep school?
Well, actually, it was starting at 5. We would do early morning training sessions in terms of strength conditioning, and then skill work. And then the kids would come back, have a shower, get breakfast, and then go to school. Then they be at school up until 12. And at lunchtime, we would work on shooting and get shooting skills up. And then they would finish off school, and then we get back, do our chores, and then come back to practice again that evening until like 8 o'clock. And then they would do a study hall, and then they would, have something to eat, dinner, and then they wake up at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock the next day again. So, they had no time to rest. It was always going, it was traveling. We were going to play Oak Hill or going elsewhere, go to Florida. We were just on the road all the time, and you had to maintain your grades because, unfortunately, the teachers, they don't really care that you're a student athlete. They just say you gotta get it done. You gotta get the work done. So it was very stressful and frustrating and tiresome and pressurized for the kids. So, like you said, it's a really tough life, but that's what's all about. Everyone has to go through it, so that's what it is. It makes you tougher, but you gotta be able to balance the basketball and the books.
No, 100%, 100%. That's one of the things I try to preach to my kids on a regular basis is, when they're complaining about schoolwork or they're complaining about practices or they're complaining about X, Y, and Z. I ask them, I say, who wants to go play Division I basketball? And obviously, you have the typical kids that all raise their hand and they say they want to go play, they want to go play basketball, and typical youth basketball players. But the problem is that not many of those guys actually have what it takes to go play Division I basketball and be eligible at the Division I level. As you already know, being in the States, a 65 is a D, and you just barely passed at a 65, where a 70 is a C minus, and a 65 here, I think, is a C, is a C, if I'm not mistaken. A 65 in Canada is a C,
Yeah,
a C plus. So the grading scale is already different to begin with. I want to ask you though, what was the biggest adjustment to bringing Canadians to the United States?
The biggest adjustment was like the grind. They weren't used to the grind. It was too fast paced for them because they wanted to slow it down and take their time and be comfortable and not be rushed and everything in terms of their homework or their lessons or projects or, playing games or, the life was just like, go, 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 go. So that was the biggest adjustment for them. And also being away from home, not being in their bed or, having the kind of, meals that they would get from their parents and, that, do their thing. So those two things were the biggest adjustments, is not being at home and being independent and having to grow up fast, and then the pace.
Well, definitely. Yeah, so obviously I'm not really one to believe speculation. I'm not really one to believe, reports and articles and things like that. But I've always heard, the speculation in terms of your time at CFCA. But I want to get your perspective. What happened on in terms of the report cards and the false credits and stuff like that? The article that came out and the report that came out on CBC. I would love to hear your side in terms of what happened and just kind of go down that lane.
Yeah, well, basically, in a nutshell, not to harp on it because I fully moved on from that and those kind of things. But if I was like 5 or 10 years too early, because if you had prep schools now, like the way they're popping up, the way they're operating, it would be a non-story. You know what I'm saying? But when you're the first one that's doing it and it's new and it's different, then it looks different, and it's people will have their opinions on it. But now, no one would even mention it. Like there's prep schools in Canada even that have had so much struggles their first year trying to figure it out in the whole nine. So just in a nutshell, it was 10 years too early, for the world to understand what we're doing, because all the kids that we had went Division I and played or junior college, and they moved on with their life and they did their thing and they got to where they need to get to. So you were there to work with the kids and help the kids, but your first year you're trying to make it right and do the right thing, and there's no one in front of you that says, okay, this is the way to do it, this is the way to do it. So you're gonna have some missteps and some things that you not sure about, or things you try, but you do that out of goodness and have a good heart with it, trying to work with the kids, because I was right there with them. So I don't want myself to be in any kind of situations. You want to do the right thing, but not having anyone to follow before you, and also just being early in this journey, because now there's so many prep schools that have so much challenges, so much issues, and no one talks about them. So it's all good. I just move on and just keep going, and so forth.
Well, you definitely did move on, like you mentioned, because in 2012 you left CFCA, and then you joined and got hired from Crestwood. Wanted to ask you, what was the transition like coming back from the United States to go to Canada and coaching in Canada again at that prep level?
Was a big transition because I went from playing Oak Hill and having a really good team and going to all these major tournaments and having all these coaches to where I had to start from scratch and build Crestwood from the bottom. They were in tier 2 in a private league. They didn't even understand what prep school is all about, traveling and having the gym all the time to train kids when they're not in class and extra hours and the whole nine. So you had to change the entire culture, where there's no one watching the game. So now, you'd have packed gyms, standing room only, and bringing teams from the States and traveling all over. We even went to Bahamas, and you have to change everything around and help guys to go D1. So with the experience and the support, you were able to do what you wanted and needed to do. So it was a big challenge, but now I think it's at a good place. I think that it's just plug and play now, because everyone in the world knows what Crestwood is and who went there and who built it, the whole nine. So in terms of recruiting, in terms of daily operations, in terms of everything, it's in a good place.
Very good place. Yeah.
Good
job, bro.
Great job. Not good job. Not good job, Chris. Great job. You understand that, Chris?
I had to mention something at least. I had to make sure it was known that you really did a dent and changed that whole landscape of prep school. So yeah.
100%. Obviously, coming from a star-studded team like CFCA and then coming to Crestwood, you still have your stars with you. You had Jacoby, you had an up-and-coming star in Elijah Fisher. I'm not too sure who else was on that team, but I know that was a very good team. What was your goal going into that year, or at least going into the final year of 2019? What was your goal going into that year, and what were you trying to achieve?
Well, you wanted to get to the next level. You wanted to beat. Your goal was to beat some American teams. We were the only prep school program that was still a member of OFSA. So even though you had pretty good players, you want to establish yourself and put that OFSA championship banner in the gym to say that you did, check it off and say you've been there, did that. So we won OFSA by landslide, and guys went Division I. You had Trayvon Thomas, who went to Vanderbilt, and Kobe Neath obviously went to Wake Forest at the time. He's now at Wisconsin doing his thing there. And then Elijah Fisher had multiple offers, and you had Ramad Dean, and you had Zayden Cross, and you had all these different kids. So, so a lot of the goals that you meant to accomplish and get it to that next level, we beat some American teams and got a recognition to be solicited for tournaments in the States and the whole nine. And then we wanted to, just get up the ladder in the OSBA. So all of our goals were met, and it was a good ending.
You mentioned OFSA. You won OFSA. You mentioned Division I players. A bunch of them went Division I. But the one thing that you added to that resume now in 2019 is an OSBA championship. How did it feel to win one of the most prestigious leagues outside of OFSA for high school?
Well, just to clarify, we won the MPSAA championships before we went to OSBA, and then we went to the semifinals of OSBA. And no, we didn't win that year. It was Orangeville and I think Bill Crothers in the finals of that year. We went to the semis. So, that's one unfinished thing that we wanted to do. And I think we had the team to do it, but, hopefully, that can still happen for them. But now I'm consulting and scouting, helping kids that need an extra year of prep school to have opportunities to go, and also to help prep schools to know how to run it right, how to recruit better players, to go in tournaments in the States, all the logistical help in terms of day-to-day operations and the know-how, how to get sponsorship, all that kind of stuff. So now I'm giving back to help those programs to build the right way, give them the information on, hey, get registered with the NCAA in the portal so you could be accredited and you could be scholastic. So college coaches can watch you play and your guys are registered in the NCAA, and just helping them with all that stuff. So that's what I'm doing now. And it's very, very enjoyable because that's what I've done all my life. That's I'm an expert in. And it's good to see programs get better, so it's another challenge to see this fledgling one-off startup program become legitimate, where now they get into the OSBA and they have guys go in Division I and they go to tournaments in the States and do well and they stay there for multiple years and they get better and better players each year. So that's what I'm doing now, and it's very, very enjoyable. And that's my new challenge.
I love that. I love that. Quick hitters to finish off the show. Chris, what you got for us?
Quick hitters, quick hitters. First of all, before we get into all those quick hitters, bro, I really appreciate you coming and doing this show with us. I really do appreciate you doing all this, taking the time with us.
No problem. Definitely. It's always, I love talking ball. I love talking ball. I love talking life. I love talking my faith. I love talking kids. And that's what it is. I spent most of my life, working with kids. I started training at 13 actually, and coaching at 15. And I started Grassroots when I was 19. So I've done it for most of my life. It's my ministry. So I love talking about this stuff.
Well, let's get into the quick hitters, man. I love what you're sharing. You have your option now. All right, you're about to play a game. Game of players you coach all time. Which would be your five players that you choose if you're gonna play a game? I know he's like, oh man, I'm put you on blast. He's like, I'm make someone feel bad.
Yeah, you put me on the spot right now because I know I'm gonna get a lot of phone calls after about what about me? And so just
Coach, you don't love me?
Huh?
Like, Coach, you don't love me?
Yeah, I know. Just trying to just be quick with it. I know I'm gonna miss because there's probably multiple fives that I could have to be very successful and very dominant.
So to make it easier with that question of picking your best five, and so let's categorize it. So let's give me your top 5 offensive threat. Like you need buckets. These 5 guys are gonna go on the court and give me my 5 buckets. So we're not gonna go think about the defensive guys. We're not thinking about the well balanced. Just 5 guys, offensive threat.
Okay.
Go.
So 5 offensive guys that would give us their bucket makers. The first guy that comes to mind is probably at the 3 spot, the wing spot, Denham Brown. Denham Brown, he had 48 on Carmelo Anthony. How can you question that?
You don't question that at all.
Yeah, he had 111 points in a high school game. You know what I mean? Against a bunch of brothers. So, you go and get better than that. You know what I'm saying? He averaged like 45 points in the 10th grade and they won OFSA. So it'll be Denham Brown, who's probably Grassroots best player ever, to this day, and so forth. And he's a guy that should be in the NBA still. I know he was there for a cup of tea, but he should have been there longer. At the 2 spot, it would be DeVoe Joseph. DeVoe Joseph, the first tournament that we had when Pitt Jam Fest was the best tournament in the country. You had all the top teams, and we were the only program from Canada in the Pitt Jam Fest. Now it's kind of watered down and it's not the same. But when it was hot, when college coaches could go there and all the top teams, he had 45 against Lance Stevenson, playing straight up D, blown in his ear, right? You know what I'm saying? And he was MVP. We won the tournament. He was a straight bucket getter. He averaged like 18 at Oregon, and you know what I'm saying? So it'd be DeVoe Joseph. In terms of a point guard, I'd probably go with Antwi Atwahini because he was a walk-in triple-double. You know what I mean? Yep. He's 25 points, 12 rebounds, and still like 10 to 15 assists. So he was high octane, everything. Like he was responsible for like 70-80% of our points, when he played with us. So it would be Antwi, and let me see, at the 4, it would probably be Dwight Powell. Because
wow.
Dwight can really shoot the ball. He was a really skilled face-up 4 in terms of shooting the 3, getting to the basket, posting up, having that motor, and being able to score inside and outside. So it'd probably be Dwight, and at the 5, it'd probably be, and some people don't know this name as much. His name was Terry Licorice. Terry Licorice. Yeah, he was originally from Montreal. He was 6'10", and he went to West Hill. I brought him to West Hill, and he averaged probably about 40 points a game and like 18 rebounds and like 10 blocks. Like he averaged a triple-double. He was incredible. And when Louisville was a top program, when Denny Crum was the head coach, they offered him a scholarship amongst others, and he didn't qualify. Then he went to prep school at Mount Zion and averaged like 30 points a game at Mount Zion right after Tracy McGrady. So he proved himself in all areas. He went to NBA top 100 camp and averaged 20. Like he was like so talented. He could shoot the 3. He had like +6 wingspan. He was athletic. He could handle the ball, everything. And even when he went to Mississippi State, his first exhibition game, he had like, as a freshman, which a lot of freshmen don't do, he had 22 as a freshman, and that's like a freshman. Freshmen, they look, a lot of times they don't play a lot. Sometimes they don't even play. And unfortunately, he had a heart issue that ended his career early. And now he now trains and coaches in Hamilton and has a family. But those are the best guys that come to mind right now.
Okay. Next question I want to ask you is, if you had a dinner party, dead or alive, who are 5 people that you'd like to host at your party?
Oh, good question. Okay, let me think about this. Okay, so the first person that I have at my party would be Jesus Christ. You know what I'm saying? I would be like just around him for the most of the night, asking questions and listening to the stories of back in the day and what it takes to get to heaven and what he went through the whole 9. So Jesus Christ for sure, 100%. And then the second person would be MLK. MLK, find out the grind and the passion and the stories and everything he had to go through. So MLK as well. And let me see, the 4th person probably would be that's a hard question. Marcus Garvey. He was a big time activist from Jamaica who came to Canada, and he went to Africa, and he was really about the roots and where it came from and the whole 9. And he had to fight against the FBI and the CIA and American government and everything. Like he was a man that was trying to just, really, let it be known what it was. He wanted to put it out there so everyone knew what it really was about slavery and about, the politics and about all the Illuminati and everything. He wanted to put it all on blast. So I'd love to hear his story and his walk and everything like that. And probably the last person that I'd have is probably my father. Because what happened was, like, early on, he was a workaholic. He had like five jobs. So he wasn't home a lot when I was younger because he was always working. So we didn't have a great relationship when I was younger because he was always working. So I did appreciate him for, working for the family. And then when I had my kids, then he was a great grandfather. Like all the times that I was feeling like, where's my father? Now that I had kids, he was a great grandfather to my kids. And then we had a great relationship. And then he passed away from a brain aneurysm one day from working like 4 jobs at like 68, 70. And, he passed, unexpectedly like that. And so I definitely would want to, have him there to, just, enjoy his company and just talk back in the day in Jamaica, and back in the day in Canada, and all, the grind that he had to work, because he was a guy that probably slept like 2 hours a day. Mm-hmm. He was always working, and that's what I'm about. I'm about working all the time. Do something. When you're not doing something, someone else is doing something. Yeah. Someone else be done to change the world and impact kids and do something even better. So those would be my 5.
That's a great 5. That is a great 5. I wish I hope that if it does ever happen, I need an invite to that party.
You could be the fly in the wall that sits there and listens to everything. You know what I'm
saying? My final question for you is, who would you like to see on Talk Your Exposure? But here's the kicker, though. You have to help us get your answer on the show.
Probably, I would probably say Patrick Shaw.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not gonna find a more community guy.
Yeah.
Like, he would help his enemy.
Yeah.
He would help someone that would bring harm to his family, and he would still help them.
Yeah.
He would go to the ends to help somebody that needs that help, and he's always there for people. And I've seen him over the decades just be there for anybody. Doesn't matter if they're big time or little time or no time. He would just help everybody. And so, and he's been a part of, women's basketball and guys basketball over the decades with Sisters Keepers and then Brothers Keepers as well. And he was always also working with me in my early years in Grassroots. And so I have nothing but tremendous respect for Patrick Shaw. I'd love to see him, and people could really hear what kind of person he is. Like, he needs some flowers. Like, I know that sometimes people talk, yeah, Ro, you did this, you started prep schools and you started AAU, and you really got some things going, but Patrick needs his flowers. For what he did when he didn't have to, from the goodness of his heart, he needs some flowers. Yeah.
Shout out Patrick Shaw, man. He definitely needs some flowers. I agree with you on that one. That concludes our show. Bro, Coach, we really appreciate you coming on the show today. Honestly, it was great to reminisce with you. It was great to talk to you. It's great to be able to kind of go down memory lane. I've heard a lot of stories, and now to be able to hear it from the person himself, it's definitely been able to be a pleasure of mine. I know Chris, his phone died, but obviously, just between Chris and myself, as you heard from him earlier, we're both thankful that you wanted to jump on the show today and wanted to give us some of your time. Really appreciate it, and hopefully we could talk more basketball down the line.
Yeah, definitely. This is one of my more fun and relaxed shows I've been on. You guys, asked some tough questions and made some jokes, and it was great. It was a really good time. I enjoyed it. I think folks should listen to Talk Your Exposure more, and you guys did a really good job. And hopefully you guys can get like once a week, once every 2 weeks, and get it going again, because it's a really good show. And you guys asked really good questions, did your research and the whole nine, and I enjoyed being on it.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. But until next time, again, we appreciate you giving me some time. And anybody listening to the show, make sure to tune into us under Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play under Talk Your Exposure. And if you want to see our faces, you can check us out on RWI Basketball on YouTube. Again, this is episode 51, joined by Coach Roy Russell.
All right.